the OEM downpipe.
This one fucking sucks. This one's super cool. That one sucks.
And again, this one's Canadian, which is pretty cool. Hey guys, what's up? It's downpipe day. Matt, what day is it?
Downpipe day. Or Friday.
Downpipe day on a Friday. This is gonna suck. This is not a fun job. I've done downpipes on other cars, but with the drive shaft and the chassis layout of this car, it's really gonna suck. But we got all day today, and then we have all day tomorrow. Matt's actually gonna take the Cadillac down at around noon today to get it tuned after we put the cam in and put the engine back together. So we'll be taking a small break to do that. My main goal, what's that? For the second time. So my main goal today is just to get this thing disassembled, get the drive shaft out. There's a few replacement bolts, stretch bolts, torque to yield bolts that I don't have at the moment. So tomorrow morning, Matt's gonna take me to the dealership and get those. There's a couple for the rear of the drive shaft. I have four. I already have the 4 subframe bolts that need to be replaced, but I decided that I need a few more just to be safe. So we're gonna get those tomorrow morning. So the goal is today, take our time, get the downpipe out. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done just to get everything out of the way to pull the downpipe out. Heat shields have to come out, exhaust has to come out. We have to drop the subframe a little bit to make room. There's a heat shield on the top of the transfer case back there with some really pain in the ass bolts. I'm not looking forward to that at all, but we gotta get that out and then make enough room to pull the downpipe out. And if we get there today, without too much frustration, I'll be pretty happy. And then we can finish it up tomorrow. First thing we have to do to access everything from the top, this has to come out. So once this comes out, I think we can leave the heat shield in that's down there, and then we can access the V-band clamp. The downpipe has to be loose in order to work around it to get to that heat shield and move in there. So in order to access it from the top, all this has to come out. So let's do it. So the intake's out. We have somewhat decent access to the downpipe, and this heat shield will come out eventually. There, I see it. Actually, kiss it, magnet. Where is it? I dropped a screw down there, and it's sitting right in front of my face. There it is.
I knew it was there the whole time.
Did you? Those are off, so we have as much access down here as possible. Next step, the rain tray is going to come off. That's those 7 T25 screws and the 3 T45 screws. And then we're going to disconnect the mid pipes, drop the exhaust hangers, and drop the entire exhaust. There's a couple braces across the exhaust tunnel down there, and those have to come out. So I have a box in there. It's a little thin box with triple squares in it. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's the one we brought down to your house. Bracket. Now the mid pipes have to be disconnected.
Is that back further?
Hmm?
Is it back further?
Now they're right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 13.
Is there a ranch door?
There you go.
I'm the best tool forever.
Yeah, you're doing well. Oh fuck.
What?
Alright, it's a 12 then. The nuts a 12, the bolt is a 13. Whose idea was that shit? Well, maybe they assume you don't have two 13s.
Fucking Germans.
Yeah, but maybe it's smart. Maybe they assume you don't have two 13s.
You don't have 213, you should be working on 12.
If we can get to the step where we have to remove the drive shaft before we go tune your car, I'm cool with that.
Oh, so that's how your valve works? It either just boils it straight out this side or just puts it out that side?
Yeah.
That's the quiet side and the hot side. I'm gonna pull this thing down.
Yep, so that's 13. Go ahead. Sorry. It slid fast. Slid better than I thought it would. Alright.
Oh, good. It's like right there. It'd be easy.
Mm-hmm. This whole subframe's gotta come out, the whole drive shaft's gotta come out. Pain in my penis hole.
Yeah, that's a long ass drive shaft.
Yeah. It's a lot of power. So.
You don't need the whole exhaust off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yep.
Why? I get the drive shaft.
Drive shaft. I've done so much research on this, dude. If you question me one more time, I'm putting you in the gulag. But we could do that.
kind of already had your kit lined up, so I kind of want to leave it alone. So that way when
That's it. That's the other thing. Like if we just drop it and then pull it back up, we just have to drop it by the hangers, so it's ready to.
Yeah, so there's a hanger here.
Do you need this guy? Is it a 13? Do you think? Bolt.
Yeah, it looks like it. Long extension. Extend the mundo, cuz.
Got you. So at this point, we got the mid pipes disconnected from the downpipe. Matt's got the braces off, so we're gonna go in the back and unplug both valves on either side, so we don't rip those out. And there's 3 hangers. We're gonna loosen that, drop the whole exhaust. I'm gonna open the garage door and we'll slide the whole thing out. That'll give us access to this heat shield and then the drive shaft, which is up under there. Downpipe is disconnected from the mid pipes and the whole exhaust are out of the car. So we're gonna have to loosen these little plastic nuts here and pull this down. And then we'll be able to get these clips out. Now I did order some more of these. The dealership said they needed a few days to get them in, so I'm gonna try to get a pick or a screwdriver under there, loosen those up a bit. They're gonna be a pain, but that'll allow us to drop this whole heat shield, and then we'll have access to the downpipe. I believe there's 4 of these clips here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll get to that. Matt, get under here.
You take up all the space, bro.
All right, so I know what you're thinking. Charlie, those yellow sunglasses are dope. I know, thank you. But Matt is taking out the dog bone right now.
Took these out already.
Took those 2 out, and then we're gonna loosen this up. I do have the ECE or East Coast Euro dog bone mount, and it'll be a little bit different from the stock one, but we're basically gonna drop this bolt. The puck will stay in, and then we can pull this arm straight out, and then we'll be able to tilt the transmission and the engine like we need to in order to get the rear of the drive shaft off the spline that it's on without damaging it. Good job, buddy.
Hey, thanks.
These are great. Just a great design, no drawbacks at all, like really well thought out, reusable.
German engineering.
Stellar. These are stupid. So I'm glad I bought new ones of these. They're pretty hard to get off without mangling. It just doesn't really want to cooperate and come off here.
Or maybe we're just dumb. Maybe there's an easier way to do it.
Wake up.
Comment below.
Yeah. Tell us if we're stupid. Tell us what's more stupid, us or these things.
Move down to those
I'm
ones.
betting on these things. Mount is loosened. This will allow us to pivot the engine, rotate the engine. The next thing we're gonna do after we get back from tuning Matt's car is this guy's coming out. So there's 3 bolts in the back we're gonna have to loosen up. We're gonna have to tilt the engine forward and wedge a piece of wood or one of the rubber blocks I have up in between here to pivot the engine forward. We can pull the rear of the drive shaft off the spline. Then we're gonna loosen these 4 carrier bolts and attach the drive shaft removal tool that I have and give it a good whack back that way. It'll come off of that spline up in there on the back of the transfer case. And then we can loosen the clamp on the V-band clamp holding the downpipe onto the hot side of the turbo. And we can get to that nut up there and just start loosening this up. Once this is loosened up, we can get to this heat shield, which is one of the things I wasn't looking forward to doing, but it doesn't seem too bad once I reached up there and felt that triple square, but we'll see what tools we can get in there. And then once the downpipe can move around, we can get that heat shield out, and then we should be able to pull the downpipe out. Be able to pull the downpipe out after we loosen the subframe bolts. We can loosen the 2 up here in the front. Where are they? Here's one up there. So up through this hole in the control arm. Those just have to be loosened so the front can hang a little bit. These 2 in the back, right here. These 2, and then this one will have to be removed all the way, and those are all the stretch bolts we're replacing. And then you can pull down on the back of the subframe and get the downpipe out. Now, after that's done, we can put the heat shield back on, I believe, and then bolt the subframe back on. We'll remark it. I had marked it from when we put the dog bone mount in, and it lined right back up. So we will be able to bolt this back up. I will need an alignment after this, but I might just wait till we put the lowering springs in too. In fact, I will do that. And then once this is bolted back up, I think there's enough room for the aftermarket downpipe to go back up in there. And then once that's in place, we're gonna leave the V-band clamp relatively loose so we can play with this down here, make sure it's all straight, and then we can put the drive shaft back in. But let's go get Matt's car done first. He's been a very patient boy. I took these bolts out here. There are 3 of them, and they are 10 millimeter. And now I'm gonna come up here. I'll put tape around the drive shaft here. This is where the drive shaft removal tool is gonna go. And then we're gonna tilt the engine forward using the jack and the block. We're gonna wedge something in there, and then we should be able to get the drive shaft out after we remove the bolts for the carrier. Drive shaft is out. All you guys want to really make sure that you do is have enough people, enough hands, and then keep it really nice and straight. We ended up turning the carrier portion upside down like this. It's resting nice and straight on the ground. And you're definitely going to want to lower or loosen the subframe so you can hold down on it to get the drive shaft out of there. But now what we are going to do is take this whole heat shield out. There's 2 more clips. Matt's working on one of them. Yeah, they're pretty awful. Just one more, and then we're going to drop this whole heat shield out, and we'll have access to the bolts in the heat shield. The thing I was most worried about was definitely getting this drive shaft out in one piece. It's a very expensive mistake if you don't do it properly, but I had 2 competent, well, one really competent helper, and then a half competent helper.
And then me.
All right, so we've been working on this for a little bit. We got the V-band clamp loosened. You're really gonna have to get under there with a screwdriver and pry it out without damaging it, but at least the downpipe can move around now. And now we're gonna go to the bottom and tackle these heat shield bolts. And we already got this one bolt out on the side here. It goes in that way into the downpipe, and it's on like a little black bracket there. You can bend this heat shield right here out of the way a bit to get in there. So we're working on this lower heat shield. It's the heat shield that sits above the transfer case on the back of the transmission in the front, and that needs to come out before we can pull the downpipe out, even with the subframe loosened. So we ended up pulling out this off the side bracket. This is on the back, facing towards the front of the car like that. And then there's 2 of these, which are Allen keys. They are 7 millimeter.
I think so.
Okay.
8, I think.
8.
They're 8, yeah.
They're 8 millimeter Allen keys, and they sit
They
like
hold
that.
this on. They hold this
And
on.
they hold
so
that
there's 2
on.
studs that come through here, and they hold that on.
And now we're removing,
There's a stud. The stud that bolts to also has to come loose.
which we're working on. So he's gonna take you under there.
Which is right here. These are the 2. There's one there. They both go through that shield I just showed you. And then now this one has to come off. I already broke it loose to get the rest of this big shield up. That's the last piece holding it in.
There's one thing I wanted to cover with you guys real quick. One of the hang-ups I was really worried about was on that heat shield that has to be removed for the stock downpipe to come out. It's above the rear transfer case on the back of the transmission. There are 2 13 millimeter bolts that need to come out. One is a black bracket that goes up to the side and mounts to the side of the downpipe, and then it comes down and mounts into the back of the transfer case. There are 2 Allen key cylindrical shaped nuts that come off of another set of threads that also bolt into the side of the transmission. That all needs to come out, but the one that was most difficult was a triple square bolt on the back. If you're looking from the back of the car like this, it's in the back right, and it screws in this way into the transmission, and it was a bit of a hang up. If you're doing it by yourself, I can see where it's really going to be an inconvenience. You're going to have to get pretty creative with how to get that. But when I had Matt here, the way we got it out, and if you can get a buddy to help you or someone else, someone you hate as well, if you can just like convince them to help you for a little bit, that would work too. Or just make it a buddy. That's a lot easier. You can have one person reach in from the top of the engine bay here, and then have the other person lying underneath, preferably with their feet facing back that way. And then what you can do is you can take a ratchet with a really long extension. We used a 1/2 inch ratchet with a reducer down to 3/8, and then we used a long 3/8 inch extension, and that went into a swiveling piece like this. Let's do a reenactment here. I would come in from the top, I'd take the extension and I would put it under the loosened downpipe, and then Matt would reach up from below, line the triple square up with the bolt, and then I could loosen it from here and then he could pull it out. So that's the best suggestion I have for getting that bolt out. It's gonna be really frustrating if you try to do it by yourself, but I'm sure you guys are confident enough to figure that out. But if you have two people, this is definitely the easiest way. It took a few tries for him to get the teeth in into the bolt, but we were able to get that out with some teamwork. The other thing is, again, I will say it over and over, be very careful with the drive shaft. When we're taking the drive shaft out and then when we put it back in, always had 3 people. One supporting the front and watching it come off the spline in the front, and then one person in the back making sure it didn't drop down too far and separate in the middle, and then one person controlling the carrier bolt housing or mount and the mallet and the drive shaft removal tool. And then we basically ended up pulling it down, turning the carrier bolt section, which is like that right now, and we just turned that upside down and laid it flat on the ground. Just kept it right there, didn't move it too much, and then just did the opposite to get it back in. So you're basically gonna have the person in the front watch it as it goes into the front and make sure the teeth are all lined up. Person in the middle will tap gently on that, and then as soon as that's all the way on in the front, you can loosely put the carrier bolts back in. There's 4 of them. I didn't tighten them down, but I at least had it support, and then Matt was able to get the rear on that spindle in the back, sticks out like that, and he was able to get it lined up with that. I hopped out and lowered the jack so the engine tilted back this way and pushed the drive shaft back onto that spindle there, and then it was locked in. So just, I hate repeating myself, I hate saying things over and over again, beating a dead horse, but unless you want to buy a $1,200 drive shaft, and there's not a lot of them around. I've seen a couple of guys break them, or either taking them out or at the track, just putting too much power through them, and they're having a lot of trouble getting replacements. So save yourself the hassle, the money, the time, the headache, and just make sure you have enough people to help you if you're going to tackle this yourself, and be really careful with that drive shaft. Those were the 2 biggest things I was worried about with this job, were the drive shaft and that triple square bolt. But I'll admit I had competent help. I'll give Matt some credit. I don't want to, but I'll give it to him. This thing sucks. This is awful to get out of there, but it's out. This guy's a hero. You're definitely gonna need the engine as far as it will go, twisted this way, and then the subframe pulled down.
Oh, you can probably release that jack, man, slowly, and bring them over.
Yeah?
We shouldn't need it for the aftermarket one, right?
I want to get that heat shield back in, and then I want to put the new downpipe up in there, and at least get it loose with the V-band clamp, and then put the subframe back up.
Is the clamp still on there?
The V-band? No, it fell off. I put it on the top.
Alright, we'll put that back together. Did we do anything else?
Alright, let me go get the new downpipe.
Okay.
We'll be right back. We're gonna work on getting this V-band clamp back together. We didn't do too much damage to it. And here they are. The OEM downpipe.
This one fucking sucks. This one's super cool. That one sucks.
And again, this one's Canadian, which is pretty cool. Right? Canadians are cool. We're cool with Canadians.
I guess so.
Alright. But yeah, there's definitely gonna be much more room to maneuver this.
All up in there.
All up in there. This is awful. That sucks. But we're gonna get this one in here. With that heat shield in there?
Oh yeah. Fucking easy.
Alright guys, so that heat shield above the transfer case.
Well, it's a major pain in the dick.
Yeah.
Can go back in.
That you can put that heat shield back in. Then we can put the downpipe in and button the subframe back up. Or at least put the bolts back in before we get the... Or no, I have 4 new subframe bolts. So we can put the subframe back on today. So we got the drive shaft back into the car. Matt's Uncle Jeff stopped by to help us. Say hi, Jeff.
Hello.
No, you're supposed to say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
There you go. All right. I'll show you guys what we did. Back in under here. So we got 3 people under here. Jeff made sure that end of the drive shaft went smoothly onto the spline.
And held down the subframe.
And he held down the subframe. He did have to pull it down a little bit to get in between the downpipe and the subframe. But once it was on the spline, I just gently started tapping with the hammer, soft or a dead blow hammer on here, really lightly. Tapped it all the way in. Got these carrier bolts loosely lined up. Got them hand started. And then Matt made sure the spline was lined up in the back, lining the, there's painted dots in the back that correlate to the alignment back there. And then I slowly went up front and lowered the jack that was turning the motor and giving us room back there. And it made it right up. So,
These are the torque bolts, right?
Yep, so those are
torque to yield, replace them.
Yep, so Matt and I are going to the dealership tomorrow morning. I've ordered all this new stuff and it's not coming in until tomorrow, which is Saturday. And I'm replacing those 3 bolts we took out. I did not get new carrier bolts. I don't think I had to, but if you want to, or check the Audi manual, they may recommend replacing these. And then I got all new of these terrible circular washers. This one's mangled, it's just holding this on here for now, but I did get those. And I have 4 new subframe bolts that we're gonna roughly line the subframe up for now. I'm not worried about alignment because I'm gonna put springs in the next 2 weeks and it's gonna have to get realigned anyway. I'm just trying to get it back together for now. So, thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, so we're putting the subframe back up. I did get 4 new stretch bolts from the dealership, and those are these right here. And they are to be tightened to, sorry if you can't see, 70 Newton meters plus 180 degree turn, and 70 Newton meters is just over 51 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna set the torque wrench to about 52 foot-pounds. I have on order, we have to pick up again tomorrow, these 2 bolts for the front of the dog bone mount. That's putting the O2 sensor back in. And it's pretty much buttoned up from the top, besides putting the intake back on. The V-band clamp is tight. The bracket over there on the driver's side is tight. The heat shield's tight, like the one over the rear of the transmission is tight. All those bolts, those Allen keys, they're all done.
You can put the downpipe mount back on. And the subframe back into the room.
Yeah. And then just need more bolts and stuff tomorrow to button it up, and we'll start it. The downpipe is back in. Here it is. I got these mounts tightened up again, and then I got these triple squares tightened up again. So it's ready for that heat shield to go back in between the drive shaft and the mid pipes and the rest of the exhaust, and then we can bolt these flanges back up to the mid pipe and hang everything, and then we're good to go. All right, these are the two new bolts for the front of the dog bone. Torque specs according to Audi are, are 60 Newton meters, which is about 44¼ foot-pounds, plus 90 degrees. So I'm gonna torque these down right now. All right. 120 foot-pounds, dog bone's done. I'm gonna move back and start getting these those round clips back up on the heat shield. And then onto the drive shaft, and then we can put the exhaust back on. So replacing these, again, these are the old bolts. Replacing them with the new ones. These are 50 Newton meters plus 90, so roughly 36 foot-pounds plus another 90-degree turn. Matt came back, he's got a fresh cut. And the exhaust is back on. All right, wheels are back on, rain tray's back on. We're gonna drop it down, torque the lug nuts. Torque the lug nuts?
Torque the lug nuts.
Torque the lug nuts. And then we're gonna get the intake back in, and then we'll be able to start it up. So everything's buttoned back up, the intake's back in, and we're gonna leave this open just so we can hear if anything's not right back there. The D-band clamp's not on properly, but I'm, what, 99% sure everything's pretty sure. So
I torqued the lug nuts.
Okay, they're good. So first startup with the Unitronic Downpipe, AWE inlet pipe. Wait, let me finish. So wait, let me finish. Unitronic downpipes, AWE mid pipes, and the AWE switch path. And right now the valve is closed. It's definitely a little louder and deeper. So what are you in, comfort mode? Yeah, comfort now. All right, comfort mode. All right, open them. Dynamic. Yep. Woo! You want to hear it? Here, take this.
Grandpa mode. Rowdy mode. I think it sounds good. Charlie happy?
Yeah, Charlie's happy. You want to take it for a drive?
Sure.
I think it's better. Sounds better.